friends, it's Nancy, and I have got yet another Christmas junk journal flip through. This one is Santa's Toy Shop, and I've created this out of a little golden book. It has a 2-inch spine that I've sewn in and added some vintage buttons, and some of these are really old. Covered this rough edge with some really wide red rickrack. We've got some hangy stuff on the bottom and some charms and tabs and all kinds of fun stuff. And it's closed with vintage seam binding. So we'll just untie that, take a look inside. So on the front cover is this image of a little girl under the tree with her new doll. I tried to stick with a toy theme for this journal. So here's the first page of the book, and I've kept the book pages in order. Here is a little boy telling Santa what he would like for Christmas, and that's a tuck spot. On this side, I have sewn a little Rolodex card on, added a ruffle of fabric, and there's a couple of tags in there. So this one's actually got some coffee dyed paper flips that you can add, your secret Christmas list, and tuck it right in there. Here is a little girl with her doll under the tree, and I've added this index card and this image of Jingle Bells. And I've done a little bit of stitching here with gold thread here. This is an invoice sheet, and I've added some red rickrack. This is just a scrap of coffee dyed paper and a paper clip with some vintage Christmas fabric. This is a piece of vintage Christmas wrapping paper. On the back of this coffee dyed paper is some images of advertisements for toys. This came from a book that I fussy cut out. Here's a book page. This is a piece of scrapbook paper. I've added some flat lace here, and there's lines to write on. This is from, I believe, an Ideal magazine. And here, this is a little tuck spot made out of this fabric cluster. And there's a little doll in the background. Here's a pair of kids under the Christmas tree. Do some journaling there. Coffee dyed paper, and again, here's some more lace. Here's a little girl playing with her toy under the tree. A little bit of paper doily, book page. This is a button card, and I've just added a little fabric cluster with some hand-stitched buttons. And here's a little picture of Santa Claus, and I've made this into a booklet. So it's hand-stitched with this shiny thread, and it's coffee dyed paper. Just tuck that right in there. This is a page from a children's magazine from the 60s. Some vintage lace. Vintage piano music. And again, here's another kid under the Christmas tree with her new dolls, and this is an index card I've just tucked in there. Vintage magazine. This is from Ideal magazine, and these flip out. And I just strung a few vintage buttons that hang down. Again, another little photo of some kids. And I made these plain white tags, and and added some appliques. This is a little reply card to subscribe for Ideal magazine. I've added a crocheted snowflake and fabric and button cluster. Here's an image of a kid with Santa Claus, a little coin envelope, and a index card. So that just gets tucked in there. Here is, this is an envelope. So you can, it has a couple of things going on. So it has this pull-out journaling card that goes in there. Has a little tuck spot. This was using a vintage flocked gift card. So this is manuscript paper, and you can also tuck stuff in that envelope. So this is sort of a free-floating pocket, and it has this poem about toy shop. So it just kind of free-floats there. Book page, doily. This is some white velvet ribbon on a coffee-dyed paper. This is an image from a magazine of toys. Again, here's some scrapbook paper, but it has these white, yellow dots to write on. There's Santa, book page, vintage wrapping paper. This is some very old red and white rickrack, and there's some gold in there. Not sure if you can see that or not. Here's a little piece of hand crocheted lace, and I've added this little beaded bauble to the edge of it. And here's the music for Toyland. Scrapbook paper. And there's Santa. Now we're into the second signature. So this is an image from a magazine. So there's part of a poem there, as well as some trim, vintage wrapping paper. And I've just sewn on this little to and from tag here, and added this little Jingle Bell charm. So I used that to and from so that it would be substantial enough to hold it. There's all the reindeer. Here's a piece of parchment paper, and there's some notebook paper there, just sort of tucked into this die cut of a gingerbread man. This is actually a greeting card, and I've added a little fussy cut image of two kids writing their Christmas lists. This is a magazine paper, scrapbook paper. This is the back of that, is it Ideal? No, this is for children's magazine. So I just added some trim there. There's some bears up there on this coffee dyed paper, and there's an envelope. It's got some paper tucked in there. Come on. There's some green eyelet lace. And here's an image of a little girl under the Christmas tree with her new doll. Some eyelet lace. And I've added this little beaded charm thing. And there's those reindeers. This is a song for March of the Toys. On this slide, I have a Rolodex, a little paper cluster. So there's a tag, 2 tags, and a Rolodex card. And I've got this note paper with a little puppy dog stuck in there. This is some kind of an invoice paper. I just added this little border. Here is scrapbook paper. I've added a little ruffle of green eyelet lace. And here's a good place for some journaling. This is a little tab where I've stuck this little picture of these. There's 3 children there, actually, under the Christmas tree. A little more doily. Vintage children's magazine. And here's another floating pocket. So you can tuck behind the envelope. You can do some journaling in here. There's several pieces of paper. I don't know, 4 or 5 pieces of paper. And also the envelope opens. So this has toys on it, and just the pom-poms are really cute. So I had that tucked right in here with Santa. Here's another vintage button. So I have a red one, a green one, and a white one. This is vintage magazine paper, and I've added a couple layers of rickrack. More music, Jolly Old Santa. And this is sort of this netting stuff, and here's a little piece of note paper that has Santa, and the kids are sleeping in the chair. This says nice list on the tab, and that's invoice paper. Here I've tied on this little die cut to hold this picture of a little girl under the tree with her dolls. This is some old trim. And again, another tuck spot with a button card, and this has got an applique tree. And again, here's another tag that has several sheets of copy dyed paper. Here's a little kid opening up his Christmas present, and this is the back of the reply card for the subscription. There's Santa. He's a tuck spot. This is a little piece of cross stitch, and I've made this little card to go in there, and that's on children's magazine paper. This is the back of that Christmas card. I had a little pom-pom trim and some more vintage buttons. This is an old bingo card, and it's on parchment paper. In the back of the parchment paper there's a little gingerbread house that's a tuck spot. There's Santa. And here is a little sack that I've just pinned there. Inside is some writing paper with a Christmas tree and a little bear tag. So I've just got that pinned on with some paper clips. And this is vintage wrapping paper that I've added some rickrack to. And finally, a vintage magazine page. So that is Santa's Toy Shop. If you're interested in this book, it is listed on my Etsy, and you can take a look at it there. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk again soon.